it down, blow it up, bury that head coach. I could be convinced that this increasingly common sentiment would be one that I share. I'm not there quite yet, but man, it's close. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Penguins versus Panthers tonight. That's a 7:08 p.m. face-off at PPG Paints Arena. I don't have to remind anyone here what the Penguins are going to be trying to bounce back from. Those couple of each disastrous in their own ways losses out west. And, just a general January malaise. They've lost 6 out of 9 games, and please don't waste my time with whatever loser points they picked up along the way. This isn't that. Those were cute whenever they were hovering in first or second place consistently for a lot of years. Now, they're just L's. Those are just points that are left behind. And they've had way too many of those. So they've played 9 games. They've skated off the rink 6 times as losers. That also applies to 4 out of the past 5 games. And that is not a team to be taken seriously. That's a team that's sitting in 12th place in the Eastern Conference, going nowhere, even though a good many of the teams that they should be pursuing and overtaking are losing as well. They're doing nothing. They're treadmilling. And I get, very much so, why that would be exasperating. If you're following this team to the passionate extent that you would press play on a podcast with this name, that's got to be something that's just driving you crazy. And then from there, this is human nature. You're going to pick one person or one facet of the operation to isolate on and say, that's the problem. If that individual goes, or that group goes, or that approach changes, everything's going to be fine. No. Look, if you want to fire Mike Sullivan, we want to cut through everything else here and get right to the topic that a lot of people are bringing up. If you want to fire Sullivan, you'd better be sure. Because if you're firing a coach of that caliber because of a bad month, because of disappointing overall performance culled from a roster that's the oldest in the NHL, that's realistically speaking here, probably about as inconsistent as almost everyone had expected, with the notable exception of the goaltending, which has been a pleasant surprise and arguably the only pleasant surprise. I say that because nothing that Sidney Crosby does to excel could ever be considered a surprise. But the rest of it, the team showing up for the better opponents, not showing up for the ones that they perceive to be lesser opponents, even if they actually aren't. The team only performing at its peak when it absolutely, all the way down, feels that it's got its collective backs to the wall. The team being built on a bunch of guys who've done nothing but put up points, or at least who've specialized in putting up points, now all of a sudden being asked to go out there as if they're 18 guys named Noel Acciari. That's something that's a challenge. So if you suggest or call for the coach to be changed, I'll respect that. I have nothing bad to say about you on that. That is a fair stance to take. And you know what? I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think anything that I'd see over these next couple of nights would change my own stance on Sullivan. I don't believe he should be in trouble. But if this were to continue and you were to see a scenario play out where it's really clear that it's the coach who's either got the wrong system in place or the wrong priorities when it comes to utilizing personnel, or who's just plain old being tuned out, then yeah, I could get on board with that. I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't enjoy it. But that's the case with almost everyone for whom I'd be advocating that they lose their job. That's never anything that would make me happy. Well, almost never. I'm just not there yet. I'm not shrinking from it. I'm not ducking it, as some of you have been suggesting in our various forms of communication in recent weeks. That's not it. That's not me. Have a listen to the daily shots of Steelers and Pirates to hear how I'll handle that sort of thing when I feel it's merited. So I'll respect how you feel about it. I ask that you in turn respect how I feel about it and appreciate that it's genuine. It's not manufactured. It's not forced. It's not something where I'm going, oh no, what's going to happen to me if I call it? I couldn't care less. Not as it applies to covering things with an open mind and fairly. I'm just not there. I want to be certain that this wouldn't be a move, that this couldn't be a move, that it'd be made for some sort of short-term burst. Because we've seen it, and we know this would happen. Penguins would change coaches, and they'd run off 4 or 5 W's in a row, and everyone would say, aha, look at that. See, new voice, new this, new that. I told you Sully was the problem. And to an extent, within that window, they'd be right. But that really shouldn't be how you base your decisions as to who you're employing in your top on-ice hockey job. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from Matthew, who says, DK, I wonder if Mike Sullivan's system is more designed for up-and-coming players who are trying to prove their worth. Maybe trading more established players, if possible, for younger players wouldn't be the crisis that some think. I'm not opposed to this. As easy as it would be for me to come back and say, well, wait a second, if his system sucked for star players, what are those 2 rings on his finger? Zzz. But I'll also be one who's really quick to point out that over the course of Sullivan's tenure in Pittsburgh, whenever he's had his stars out, including for long stretches, including his main guys, Sid, Gino, Tang, he's done really well. And I'm always using Brian Gibbons' name here as if he's a prototype or something. But when he's got a couple of stars and 16 skaters named Brian Gibbons, he's going to beat you. Because every one of those individuals is going to skate for him as if their lives depended on it. It's going to fly around, forecheck, be on the puck, not do anything dumb with it, not take any risks, and score just enough to squeak one out. And those guys, which might be the source of what you're bringing up here, are a lot less likely to tune out anything because they really kind of like getting those NHL paychecks. The place where I think I'll really sharply differ with you on this, though, is you're saying young, and I'm saying gritty, and I don't care what age they are or how affixed they are to the American Hockey League. Sullivan will always, always, always look like a better head coach when he's got himself a Brandon Tanev, a Carl Hagelin, a Brian Gibbons, who will just do what he asks. And that's one of the reasons that I've never dismissed, no matter how low the overall quality of prospects happens to be in this pool, and it remains low, that players who are in Wilkes-Barre Scranton could come up and make a difference, not because they'd add scoring or whatever, but because they would do this. When I see Sam Poulin, for example, who's playing a lot better of late, by the way, and I see Sam flying around in the attacking zone, popping himself a couple of goals. He's on a line right now with Jesse Puljujarvi on the AHL tryout down there. They're making stuff happen together. Radim Zahorna is on that line, which doesn't hurt. And I think, all right, yes, Sam could be that guy. If Sam really kind of gets his defensive act together, and he knows this, if he takes care of his own zone and just makes the simplest, cleanest possible plays, he could be someone like that. But the reason that I bristle at the Young thing is, the Young thing. You tell me when he's had use on a consistent basis for any type of youth, other than, of course, in the 2016-17 season. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everyone listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll be back with another one of these on Monday.